Hey YouTube, how's it going? So, as should be expected, I'm sure, I've been reading a lot this summer. I don't have a count, but I've been doing a lot of reading, so of course I've been thinking a lot about books. Because of this, I was thinking that it would be fun to do a vlog on, 5 books that I think everyone should read. It wasn't originally my idea, it was my friend Elizabeth's, but I'm going to do it anyway and pretend it was my idea, except I just said it wasn't, so I guess that doesn't matter. Of course, when I was thinking of 5 books that everyone should read, I thought, that's pretty general. There's a lot of books out there. So I decided to narrow it to 5 books I think you should read that I happen to have in the house that I can show you for visual representations. So I had to dig around the house a little, and this is what I came up with. Alright, my number 5 book is actually encompassed in 2 books, so I'm already breaking the rules, but that's okay, I think. I think everyone should read Grimm's Fairy Tales and Hans Christian Andersen fairy tales. These are the original books. Not original, but copies of the original books. And as you can tell, there's a lot to read there. I think everyone should read them because we are these days fed fairy tales that are more polite versions, more politically correct versions. Happier versions. I think I mentioned this in an earlier episode, but a lot of these tales are really depressing. For example, and I don't think everyone should read all of Hans Christian Andersen because a lot of them are kind of boring. I'll admit to that. But the popular ones, for an example, the original The Little Mermaid. We all know the Disney version where Ariel goes on land and she has a fight with the sea witch, but in the end she gets to marry the prince. In the original version by Mr. Anderson here, it's called The Little Sea Maid, and the Little Sea Maid goes on land after taking a potion that makes it so that every step she takes feels like she's walking on razor's edge, on the edge of a sword, and it also feels like her body is being cleft in two by a sword. And then, of course, she can't talk. The prince falls in love with someone else who does not happen to be a sea witch. She's actually a young princess from a convent. Which makes it very difficult to dislike her. And then he marries her. She is given a chance if she can return to the sea and be a mermaid again if she'll only kill the prince, put a knife through his heart, and she can't do it, so she kills herself. And of course there's a bit of an uplift there because she becomes a spirit of the air, and if she works hard for 300 years she'll get a soul and then she can go to heaven and happiness. But it's a bit different than the Disney version, so and a lot of the tales are like that. A lot of Grimm's are like that, as one can expect. So I think it would be beneficial if everyone were to at least read the important ones, the ones that we still hear now, to read the original tales and see where they really come from. Number 4 on my list is a book that my roommate introduced me to. It's called The Hollow Kingdom, and it's by Claire B. Dunkel. And it's about a girl named Kate and her sister Emily, and they move to this place called Hollow Hill after their father dies. Their mother's already dead. And they're living there, and all of a sudden they start having these goblins coming to them, and Kate, the older sister, is told that she has to marry the Goblin King. And he is chasing after her and trying to get her to marry him, and she doesn't want to, and all these adventures happen. And it's a surprisingly pleasant book. I remember when my roommate introduced me to it, I thought, oh, that's going to be kind of corny, I don't know. And then I read it, and I was surprised because I very much enjoyed it. It has a taste of fairy tale, but it's unique in the sense that it shows that nothing is really as it seems. It's almost, it's not the same, but you could almost see it as a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, I think, where Beauty is able to see past Beast's hideous exterior and fall in love with the man inside. Although goblins don't get any prettier no matter how much you love them, but it's a good book and I highly recommend it. I had to dig around downstairs for my next 2, but they're both ones that, well, one of them instantly came to mind, and the second one, as soon as I saw it, I knew. So number 3 is a book called The Clan of the Cave Bear. This one doesn't have a jacket, so no pretty picture, but it's by Jean M. Auel. I read this one when I was in 6th or 7th grade. I think I was in 7th grade. And it's a story of a young girl who is alive during I think it's the end of the most recent ice age. It's a long time ago, at any rate. No writing, no reading, no very little tools, no technology, of course. And it's just kind of what happens to this girl when she's adopted. She's Homo sapien, and she's adopted by a clan of what are they called? Neanderthals. So in this book, they're a different species. I know that's been kind of a debate not recently, but I've been. At any rate, so she's adopted by Neanderthals and raised by them, and they can't speak. They speak in sign language, so she has to learn their language, and their way of life is very different than what she had been living in. She's like 5 years old, so she has to readapt herself, and it's a really good book, and I highly recommend it. And if you do pick it up, though, don't be like me, who finished it and thought, wow, that was a sad ending, and then was done with it, and then half a year later my mom said, hey, you finished that book, did you read the next one? Because it turns out there's a whole series of these. Ayla's adventure does not end with Clan of the Cave Bear. It's followed by Valley of Horses, followed by the Mammoth Hunters, followed by the Plains of Passage, and then there's one other that I've only read once, and I can't recall the name of it. It's like the Caves or the Stone or something like that of something. And then she is releasing the final book in the series sometime soon, I've heard. I'm not positive about that, though. Number 4, like I said, this is the one where I saw it and I just knew right away. And that would be, it's a collection of Edgar Allan Poe, who is fabulous. Everyone, at least that I know, knows of Mr. Poe, knows of his wonderfully famous The Raven. As soon as you hear Once Upon a Midnight Dreary, or even just the word Nevermore, you know it's Poe. And The Raven is an awesome poem, and I highly recommend reading it in its entirety. But he's written a lot more than just The Raven. He's got some really great short stories, some really great, not as short stories, some wonderful poems. And Poe is just, he's awesome. He's got great rhyme scheme. He's very tight with his syllables, and I thought I'd bring a little poetry into the mix besides, but also check out his stories. He's fantastic. The number 1 book on my list is actually a book that I haven't read yet. Now, I know this sounds kind of crazy, but there's a lesson to be learned here. The number 1 book on my list is Twilight. Like I said, I haven't read Twilight. I am planning on reading it in the future when I have a copy of all 4 books available, because I don't like reading a series when I don't have all 4, and I'm missing New Moon. I've got the other 3. I borrowed them from a friend, that is. And the reason Twilight is on my list is because I haven't read them. Like I said, that's the whole reason. I've admitted in the past that I don't like Twilight. I don't like the idea of Twilight, but I've only read summaries. I've only read reviews. I haven't actually read it myself. So the whole point of putting Twilight on this list is to say that even if you don't really know what's going on in a book, you should give it a chance. You should read it. Before you make too harsh of judgments, because I have judged it harshly in the past, and I'm afraid that judgment probably will cloud my reading of it. I'll probably look at it differently than if I had just found it on a bookshelf, never having heard of it and read it, but I'm still giving it a chance. I'm going to try to go in with an open mind. I'm going to try to see what others enjoy about it and what others dislike about it, and I'm going to try to be impartial. So that's why Twilight is the number 1 book on my list, is because it's all about giving things a chance when you've already given them judgments, and giving them a chance to, I'm almost equating it to people, letting them explain themselves, or giving them a chance before you completely judge them and hate them for no obvious reason. So yeah, I hope that was an okay top 5 books list. I might have picked differently if I were at home with all of my books, but even if I were at home, that would require a lot of digging because most of my books are packed away. But I hope that was an alright list. They're all books that I think people should check out for one reason or another. And I hope that it opened your mind a little. My name is Keps, and I approve this message.